All of these houses, brand new builds, available, all 10 of them, for sale.
November 2025, Florida. 97,224 homes sitting unsold. Inventory up 40% year over year. Homes taking 98 days to sell, the longest in America, and 43.9% of sellers cutting prices just to get someone through the door. Tampa hit 54.9% price reductions. Orlando 48.7%. Pensacola 48.6%. Governor Ron DeSantis just admitted a housing correction was coming while proposing to eliminate property taxes entirely. Economists called it a 2028 presidential stunt. Critics said it would spike home prices another 7 to 9%. And homeowners trapped with unsellable properties don't care about political theater anymore. They need buyers. This is the story of how Florida's housing market flipped from seller's paradise to buyer's wasteland in less than 18 months, and why nobody knows where the bottom is. When the frenzy ended, Florida spent years as the hottest housing market in America. Bidding wars, sight unseen offers, homes selling in days. Between 2020 and 2024, over 800,000 people moved to Florida permanently. Families from California, retirees from the Midwest, tech workers from New York, everyone chasing the same dream. No state income tax, warm weather, affordable living. Home prices exploded. Between March 2020 and June 2022, Florida values surged 51%. A $250,000 house became $375,000 overnight. Sellers had all the power. Buyers competed, waived inspections, offered tens of thousands over asking. The market felt unstoppable. But by mid-2024, something broke. Interest rates hit 7%. Insurance premiums tripled. Property taxes jumped 30 to 40%. The monthly cost of homeownership became crushing, and suddenly the buyers disappeared. Not all of them, but enough to shift everything. By June 2025, Florida had 225,020 active listings, higher than 2019, higher than pre-pandemic, the most inventory the state had seen in over a decade. Homes that used to sell in 10 days sat for 40 days, then 60 days, then 98 days by November. Sellers who expected bidding wars got lowball offers or silence. The cities where nobody's buying. Let's talk about what's actually happening city by city. Tampa became ground zero. By November 2025, 54.9% of Tampa sellers had cut their asking price, over half. Homes sitting on the market longer than anywhere else in Florida. Median sale price $410,000, down from pandemic peaks and still dropping. Orlando wasn't far behind. 48.7% price cuts, inventory at 2.7 months supply. That sounds tight, but it's up from pandemic lows, and homes still taking 77 days to sell. Buyers have options now. They're being picky, negotiating hard, walking away if sellers won't budge. Pensacola hit 48.6% price reductions. A city that boomed during the pandemic now watching sellers panic, slashing thousands off asking prices just to generate interest. Naples showed more resilience, only 33% cutting prices. But here's the catch. Naples homes were taking 140 days to sell, the longest in the state. Even luxury buyers were walking away. Kissimmee reached 5.1 months of supply. Sarasota 5.5 months. Cape Coral 4.6 months, all firmly in buyer territory. Jacksonville had the state's largest city inventory at 3,082 active listings. Sellers were surrendering. The question was whether buyers would show up. 3 sellers watching their equity vanish. Doug McCormick listed his 4-bedroom, 4.5-bath house in Evergreen for $1.3 million. After 2 months and 3 open houses, he hasn't received a single offer. Not one. The house sits, empty viewings, no bids. He's now considering dropping the price, again, but every cut means losing equity he thought was locked in. Michael in Miami Beach bought thinking real estate always goes up. His condo has been listed over a year. Started at $480,000, now asking $414,000. A $66,000 haircut. Still no buyers. Because potential buyers see the fees, see the assessments, see an aging building, and they walk. He's renting it now just to cover some costs. But rent doesn't cover HOA fees anymore. He's losing money every month holding a property nobody wants. Then there's Sarah in Fort Myers. Listed her 3-bedroom house in April 2025 for $370,000. No offers. Dropped to $350,000 in June. Still nothing. Dropped again to $335,000 in August. Got one lowball offer at $310,000. She's paying mortgage, insurance, property taxes on an empty house while living somewhere else, bleeding thousands monthly. And the market keeps getting worse. These aren't unique stories. They're happening across Florida. Thousands of sellers trapped. Can't get the price they need. Can't afford to keep paying for empty houses. Can't walk away without destroying credit and taking massive losses. Stuck watching equity evaporate while politicians argue about tax policy. When DeSantis admitted the market was broken, March 2025, DeSantis finally said what everyone already knew. A correction was coming, maybe already here. He tried softening it, said Florida had more authentic demand this time than in 2000 or 2007. Less speculation, real people moving for real reasons. But then he said something revealing. A lot of people have wanted to come here. Past tense, wanted, not want. The migration was slowing. Everyone knew it. He made the comments while pushing his property tax elimination plan. Said homeowners shouldn't pay rent to the government. That owning a home for 35 years shouldn't mean still owing money. And he pointed to something accurate. Property appraisers don't lower assessments when markets correct. You bought at the top? You're stuck paying taxes on that inflated value even as your home's worth drops. But critics saw through it. Jeff Brandes, former Republican state senator, called it political posturing. Said DeSantis was building his 2028 presidential campaign, not solving Florida's housing crisis. Representative Anna Eskamani agreed. Said insurance should be the debate, not property taxes, because eliminating property taxes doesn't bring buyers back, doesn't lower insurance costs, doesn't stop the inventory surge. Then economists at Realtor.com dropped a bomb. If Florida eliminated property taxes on homesteads, home prices would immediately jump 7 to 9%. Why? Because buyers would pay more knowing their carrying costs were lower. But that spike would make Florida even less affordable for first-time buyers. Renters would get crushed. And the people DeSantis claimed to help, current homeowners, would watch their unsellable homes become even more unsellable as prices inflated further. The delisting wave nobody's talking about. Then something unusual started happening. Sellers began pulling listings. Not because they sold, because they gave up. Realtor.com data for August showed nearly 60 homes delisted for every 100 newly listed in some Florida markets. Miami had the highest delisting to listing ratio at about 59, Tampa 33, Orlando 28. The number of single-family homes for sale in Florida fell from over 100,000 in spring to about 96,000 by fall. After years of rapid inventory growth, listings were suddenly disappearing. But this wasn't good news. Jenna Stauffer, broker at Sotheby's International Realty, tried spinning it as healthy. Said it helped reset home prices and balance supply and demand. That's nonsense. Sellers weren't pulling listings because the market was healthy. They were pulling listings because they were trapped, owed more than homes were worth. Florida's boom was fake, built on low interest rates and remote work. Once those factors disappeared, the market collapsed, and it wasn't coming back. The metrics that prove the collapse. Let's talk numbers. Florida's months of supply hit 6.6 months by July 2025, up 30% from 5.1 months a year earlier. Anything above 6 months favors buyers. Sellers lose leverage, buyers can negotiate, walk away, wait for better deals. Florida crossed that line and kept climbing. By November, some markets hit 5.5 months supply. Others pushed past 6. Median time to sale stretched to 98 days statewide by November, 21 days longer than the national median of 77 days. Florida homes were taking longer to sell than properties almost anywhere else in America, and 43.9% of sellers were cutting prices, nearly half. That's desperation. That's sellers realizing the market had turned against them. Only 2.2% of listings increased their asking price during the week of November 1st, and 7.3% were relisted after being pulled. Sellers regrouping, trying new strategies, none of it working. Florida's median list price held at $480,000 in November, but that number masked widespread discounting. Sellers were listing high, then cutting again, eventually selling for thousands below original asking. The $480,000 median was a fiction. Real transaction prices were lower, way lower. The markets where it's worst. Some cities got hit harder than others. Palm Bay saw inventory jump 27.8%. Deltona, another Florida city, made the top 10 nationwide for price cuts. Nearly a quarter of listings marked down. Austin and Charleston joined the list, but Florida dominated. More Florida cities in the top 10 than any other state. Phoenix topped the national list, a third of its nearly 20,000 active listings seeing price cuts, up 7.6% year over year. Denver, the only non-Sunbelt city in the top 10, saw the sharpest annual increase in price cuts at over 6%, and the largest inventory surge at 65%. But Florida wasn't far behind. Hannah Jones, senior economic research analyst at Realtor.com, said as inventory builds up, homes sit longer. Sellers reduce asking prices to drum up attention. That's exactly what was happening. Inventory building, days on market extending, price cuts spreading. The question was, how far prices would fall before buyers returned. Some economists predicted prices would stabilize by late 2026. Others said the correction would last through 2027. When competition arrived from builders, then builders made it worse. They started offering incentives to compete with existing home sellers, interest rate buydowns, free upgrades, closing cost assistance. Builders needed to clear inventory before year-end, so they slashed prices, offered deals existing home sellers couldn't match. Orlando builders rolled out their deepest discounts of the year. Tampa builders followed, Jacksonville, Southwest Florida, all offering incentives that pulled buyers away from resale homes. Why negotiate with a homeowner when you can get a brand new house with a lower interest rate and free appliances? This created a two-tier market, new construction moving, existing homes sitting. Builders had flexibility. They could afford to cut margins temporarily. Homeowners couldn't. They were stuck with fixed costs, fixed debts, fixed desperation, and builders kept taking their buyers. Competition from new construction weighed on existing sellers, made their homes less attractive, forced deeper price cuts, created a race to the bottom that nobody could win, except builders and buyers with cash. The bottom line, nobody wants to say. December 2025, Florida's housing market remains in freefall. 97,224 homes unsold, 43.9% of sellers cutting prices. Homes taking 98 days to sell, the longest in America. And every forecast says it's getting worse before it gets better. Inventory keeps climbing. Buyers stay cautious. Sellers keep cutting. The power dynamic has completely reversed. The state that spent years as America's hottest housing market is now its coldest. Sellers panicking, buyers waiting, and nobody knows where the floor is. This is how Florida's governor got shocked as inventory skyrocketed and sellers slashed prices statewide. Not because of a hurricane, not because of a recession, but because the market that felt unstoppable finally stopped. And now everyone's scrambling to figure out what happens next. If this breakdown opened your eyes to Florida's housing collapse, hit that subscribe button. More real estate crashes, more political failures, more markets hiding the truth behind official spin, they're all coming, and you'll want to see what happens next.